Hello, everybody, and welcome to Becoming Invincible podcast. I am your host, Talia, and I am so excited to have you here. This podcast is to reframe your mindset, challenge those limiting beliefs that you may have when you're navigating all the situations in your life. And I'm here to give you tools to help you navigate them in such a healthy way and to harness your personal power that we tend to lose along the way. So settle up, get ready, grab a coffee, and get ready for some juice in each episode as I throw you what life has thrown me and we can navigate this shit together. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. I have no structure for this episode. So it's going to be like a mini episode, and I'll put them in between certain episodes in my show because it's sort of like something I really want to riff on and not really have too much structure for, and something that's not going to be as long as my normal episodes, but you can still get something from it. You know, that's the whole point of my podcast. So I'll dive right in so it doesn't become long, but it's a shout out episode. A shout out episode to the people who could be in a toxic situation right now. A shout out to those people that are finding life a little bit more difficult. A shout out to those that have no idea what their next step in life is. It's a shout out episode to those people who feel like they cannot be themselves, express themselves, by using their voice, being who they are. And maybe even you've lost sight of yourself, because that happens so easily. Reaching out to those of you that are going through something like this. And even if someone's not, I'm sure that you guys could listen and take what you will from it too. But I was having a conversation today and it really sparked just this mini episode because we're talking about the girl's dad situation, and I was really explaining it because it's best when you're having a conversation because people can ask you questions and you can answer. She was asking me really great questions today, and I really brought up a lot of things, but in such a beautiful way. And I know I normally give you context to this, but I'm not going to for privacy reasons in my own life. But it really sparked this episode because my relationship with the sperm donor is classed as a domestic violence relationship, although I don't deem it that because he never physically laid a hand on me, but he emotionally and mentally abused me. And that's still trauma, and that's still a lot of things I've had to work through. I know that can happen a lot as well. There is narcissistic people out there and they can really emotionally damage and cause a lot of pain. So those of you that could be going through a hard time, even for those of you that are listening who maybe even have the question, but how did you not know? I get that all the time. How did you not know? How did you let that happen to you? A lot of us can judge when people are in a really toxic situation. So the question that I got asked today was actually different, but it was along those lines. And it was, is it true that when people are in that situation, that they understand what's happening? And I said yes, because in my experience, yes. But everyone's situation is different. Not everyone understands what's happening at that time because there's so many factors happening in this toxic time that you're in. Right? Depending on what situation it could be in. So I'm going from a relationship standpoint here because that's my experience. I said yes. When I was going through it, where he was coming and going, he didn't give a shit about the girls, and he was love bombing me, and then he would be very cold, and there was a lot of signs by the end of it that I was like, yeah, it's done. When most of the time he would stay away. So those of you that don't know, he stayed away a lot. It won't make sense when you're listening to this, but I know you can put it to your own situation if you relate, or maybe this is a little bit of context for you when people are in hard situations and they feel like they cannot get out. I want everyone to sort of understand here that, I'm no expert, it's from my experience, okay? So take what you will. Should have said that at the start, but in my case, yes, I knew what was happening. There was things that were said. He left for 4 months and I was raising Scarlett alone, which is my first daughter, for new listeners. And I had no idea what was going on with, legally. He went to Melbourne and he was gone for 4 months and that was it. And I didn't really hear much from him. And with that, I sort of knew, I was like, there was a double life or something was happening. A lot of people don't feel okay to speak about these things too, and that's okay because it's hard, because all you do is get judged about the situation, right? And so, he was gone for 4 months and I was like, there's something not right here. And I sensed that he had another family or a double life of some kind, because it just didn't make sense. But in that time, in that period, this is before I had Nevi, and I just felt stuck. I didn't know what to do. I was a first-time mom and I was covering from a C-section. I had no idea what to do. I had fought with my family, and so I felt really alone and isolated. I had a lot of anxiety with Scarlett of, am I going to make it through the night? Because she wasn't colically, but she reflux, and so she was a really hard sleeper. She didn't really sleep much, and it was a lot, as the newborn phase is. And so I really was wondering if I would ever make it through. And so when you're presented with a situation like this as well, where you're like, oh my God, I wonder what my partner's doing. At this point, I got married, so I thought I was married to him. And you're wondering what your husband's doing, right? Anyway, and then when he came back, we sort of tried to hash it out. And then I fell pregnant with Nevaeh. And I had a message from his ex stating everything that happened to her, which she was describing someone I had not known, because that's not who he led me to believe. And none of that had happened to me. So I was like, okay, well, I just found out I'm pregnant with our second child. So you feel stuck, I felt really stuck. I was like, oh my God, I can't say anything because what the hell? And it's almost that you don't want to believe that's happening. You don't want to believe that someone you chose to have kids with is not a nice person. And I felt I wasn't like this, guys, when all this was happening. That's why I can talk from a hindsight perspective, and that's why I can talk about it, because I've done a lot of work around it to be able to speak about it. I'm not shaming anybody. I'm telling an experience because a lot of people have these experiences. And you feel stuck. You feel I didn't have the voice that I have today, and I felt really alone and scared. That's what I felt. And then the more time he wanted to stay away, like he ended up not living with us and wanting to live somewhere else. Like I was like, okay, there's someone else and there's nothing I can do about it because it's out of my control. Because at the end of the day, guys, as I've said on previous episodes, I've been cheated on pretty much every relationship in my life, except for my 6-year one and obviously the one I'm currently in. And it's a lot where you don't have control. If someone is going to cheat on you, they're going to cheat on you. And it fucking hurts, and it's hard to swallow that. It's hard to hear that. But you can't live your life in fear of, but what if that happened? Because you can't live in fear of your own life. You've got to live at some point. You've got to give yourself that breath of fresh air, that happiness that you deserve. A lot of the time when we're in toxic situations, we don't realize that it's a moment in our life. But when we're in it, it doesn't feel like that. It feels like so much going on. Like for me, it felt like a whirlwind. It felt like it was going on forever. There's always something going on. I never felt relaxed in the relationship. I was either full of anxiety thinking I was in love with somebody, or I was absolutely so heartbroken and upset being like, why are you doing this to me? There's no in between. You bounce from up and down like that. And so those of you that may not understand a toxic relationship is that you are so strung out of emotions. They're telling you one thing, they act another. They're breaking trust with you all the time. They're saying they'll change and they don't. That wasn't that wasn't my situation, but I know that can be a situation. They tell you that they love you, but they don't. It's all words at the end of the day. Their actions are doing opposite to what they say. Sometimes they don't even do any of that and they just abuse you completely. And they blame it on you and turn it on you, So there's so many factors. Everyone's situation is different. So it's hard. And so those of you that it's like, but why didn't you leave though? Chances are a lot of people know what's going on, but you're just too scared to do a thing about it. You feel like you can't. You feel like you don't have the strength to do that. And I think the biggest fear of it all is that what is your life going to look like when you do? I think that's the main underlining, even if we don't know it. Even if we're not conscious to it, I really do believe in my experience that it is scary. It's scary being like, holy shit, but what would my life be like without it? Without the ups and downs, without the turmoil? Because you're so scared to end it. You're so scared to get out of it because you have no idea what your next step is after that. And it is scary. Even when I broke up with my 6-year relationship, I had no idea what my next step was, but I very much knew we did not love each other anymore and we grew apart. We chose different. We didn't choose each other. We chose ourselves, which is good. You should choose yourself in your relationship, but we weren't choosing each other at all. We wanted different futures. That's why we broke up. But I was the only person to see it at that point. He was really thinking that he could give up his life and what he wanted to do for me. And I was like, no, I'm not going to let you do that, because you shouldn't ever want to do that for somebody. There's always compromise in a relationship, but compromising isn't sacrificing what you want to do in life. And it's about having that person to come along for the ride with you and choose you. So I wanted to sort of say that chances are people know that they're cheating or something's going on, but you're so scared or you're so belittled that you feel like you're not strong enough to be able to handle it, to change it. Also, sometimes when people are in toxic situations, is that the person that's doing it is such a good manipulator. They're so good with their words to make it feel like you're the problem, make you see reason, quote unquote, when that's not actually a logical reason. And it's a lot for when someone can really, they can help you change, they can help change your mind, and you don't even realize that's happening until after. And that's what happened a lot for me. How he used to would speak to me, I was like, okay. And it would be like I had that idea. That's how good it was. So it's easy to judge from the outside and go, but how did you not know? How can you not see? Like, oh my God, that person, like he's laying into that person, or she's laying into that guy. Because I know that women can be domestic abusers too. I've come across men who have had that happen in their life. And so you think, but they're hitting you, so why wouldn't you leave? Not everyone feels strong enough to leave, and they have no idea what their next step would be, and they're scared. They're scared of that person. And so fear can really run our life. But we all know that fear comes from the same part of our brain as excitement. Which one will you lean into? But when you're in a toxic situation, of course you're going to lean into the fear, because how can you ever choose that's excitement? Like, how could you turn that to be positive? The only positive situation you can do is like, but once I make that step, what could my life be like? And that is scary, the unknown, but it's a beautiful scary, because then you're out of that situation. But when you're in it, you're really in it. You feel very exhausted emotionally and mentally, and obviously physically, for those of you that could be experiencing something like that. And my heart absolutely goes out for you, because I couldn't imagine that. So before we can judge people on their choices, and the person today was not judging me, I did not feel that too. So if they ever listen to this, I know you weren't judging me. But it was a beautiful question, because it allowed me to answer. Not many people can ask you that. Your self-worth is so low that you don't even feel worthy of happiness. There's so many factors here. Every situation is different. I don't want anyone to carry shame or guilt, like, but why did I let that happen to me? Like, why did I have that go on for so long? Because when you get out of it, that's what you say to yourself. All of us can relate that we cut ourselves down enough. We don't need someone else to do that for us, right? We all think less of ourselves one way or another, however that shows up. Regardless if you do self-development, you have times where you feel unworthy. And that's just because you're healing. You're always healing. It's never ending. Anyone who thinks, oh, I'm in therapy and I'm going to be better now. Well, unless if you embody that and actually choose to be better, you won't be. You have a gym membership, but you're not going to get that gym body or physical strength or whatever your goal is when you go to the gym. It should never be on body type, by the way. It should actually be how that makes you feel. And you're never going to achieve that goal though until you actually start going and doing it and looking after yourself, fueling your body with the foods and everything that comes with that. So it's the same with mindset. However that looks, whatever you do, meditating looks in so many different ways, and it's about incorporating that into your life. What practices can fit into your life to help you change your mind, to create new neural pathways, to think different, to move different, to believe different. So it's just a bit of perspective here, you know. So it's so easy for us to carry shame and guilt of like, I can't believe I let that go on for so long. Like for me, I'm lucky. It was only 2 years of my life. But I know people that have been in it for 5 years, 10 years. It's hard. When you're in it, it even gets like a, you know, what's the saying? My friend actually beautifully said that to me. She goes, it was easier to stay in a comfortable hell than it is to receive an uncomfortable heaven. Because when you're so used to hell behavior from somebody, or you're so used to a shitty situation, and pain and suffering, you get used to that and you climatize to that because we're humans. We climatize, we can learn how to do that. That's why it takes a lot of time to build a habit and takes a certain amount of time to create a new belief system for yourself in your mind. And that's where the consistency is. And we all know self-development, but do you actually embody it? When you embody it, that's change. You change how you move in life. Like for me recently, I had a fight with my partner to the point that I didn't know that we were going to make it or not. I reacted in a way that was triggering for him because we both have a past, right? And so got him into the feels and got me into the feels. But I know that I should have known better than to react how I did. But it's a beautiful thing because he got to work on things that he never worked on properly. Also, I have changed my behavior. I am more conscious. I'm a very big overthinker, so I've incorporated meditation to be able to assess my thoughts so I don't go into my head as much. And that's helped me massively. So it's about embodying and creating the change. It's inevitable in a relationship that you're going to, mess up. I mean, by messing up is that you will not be a perfect human and you will say the wrong thing and you won't mean that you did that. My partner says not the best thing sometimes to me, but I try and override that. And especially now I can override it a lot more quicker. I'm just like, yep, no, it's okay. He didn't mean it like that. I know how he means it. It's about overriding those little thoughts that come in. And it's about, I understand where I went wrong. I'm so sorry and I didn't realize. I'm going to try and change that and fix that so I don't have that happen again. Can you promise that won't happen again? No, because it's life and we're humans. But you can be conscious to it to prevent that from happening, because at the end of the day, when you go into a relationship, it's never going to be perfect. We're not going to say the right thing all the time because there's going to be situations where you don't know what to say and what is the right thing to say. And I think that's probably the most beautiful thing you could ever do in a relationship, is actually be honest and be like, look, I don't know what the best thing is to say to you right now, but I'm here for you. That is a lot. That's enough to say to someone, to know that you're there for them, because there is situations where you don't know what to say. And so it's about saying, hey, I didn't mean for that to be said that way. Or like, hey, I didn't like how you said that to me. Okay, because generally 9 times out of 10, that person has no idea that that affected you that way, because you're the main character of your story. Remember that. They haven't walked a mile in your shoes, so they don't know. So it's about communicating, hey, I didn't like how you said that. Or like, when you say stuff like this, it triggers me because that was said in my past. I've said that to my partner. I said, hey, you can't say things like that, or I don't want you to do this. If I'm feeling a lot, he would then go, okay, I'll give you space. I don't want space. That is like the worst thing for me. But he's not going to know that if I don't tell him. So it's about setting your partner up the best to win. And what I mean by that is about not voicing your needs properly. How is your partner meant to know your needs when he's never been told or she's never been told? So going back to the toxic part of things, it's just about, you're gonna feel really defeated and sad and you feel like you don't know what to do. And yes, you can see all the signs and be like, holy fucking shit, this is what's happening. And sometimes you just don't want to believe it because it's so scary, or you don't want to believe it because you have children. And when you have children, it makes it harder because you're like, I don't want them to have to go through this, but I don't even know what the next step and what's right. So we can climatize. So that saying about, we can endure a familiar hell because at least we know what it's like to be in hell. We know what that person's reaction is going to be. We know that what that relationship is doing because it's a cycle and it's constantly doing it. You're getting abused one way or another. So we're used to that. So when you're coming into an unfamiliar heaven, because you're not used to something so great, it's unfamiliar and it's uncomfortable to get used to, because it's like, hey, I don't know you. You seem to be a great person, but I'm not really sure. It's very easy because most of us have that past of like, oh fuck, like you seem too good to be true, and it generally is. When's the shoe gonna drop here? When do you leave me? When do you hurt me? Whatever the flavor is, because we all have endured a different life. We're so quick to do that because we're too scared. So that's what that quote is like. We're so used to familiar hell because at least we know what that's like. Then accept unfamiliar heaven because they're presenting great, but I'm really not sure about it. And it makes me very uncomfortable. Quit living your fucking life that the shoe's gonna fucking drop. Quit living your life that shit's gonna hit the fan. All right, I'm going to leave it here. So, my whole point here is that you're not alone if you're going through a toxic time. Stop living in fear of your own life. And I know it's really hard when you're in a toxic situation right now, and my heart absolutely goes out for you. And it is fucking hard and it is scary right now. But I assure you, it is a season in your life out of all the many years you have yet to live. It's a season, it's a moment in time. You're going to look back on when you choose to, you know what? Fuck, that was an absolute whirlwind of my life, but it's over. Because you deserve happiness and you're worthy of it. Because you are not broken. But it won't be so unfamiliar because you can heal through that relationship as well. I want to say that because I'm healing through mine. There's things that you can only work on to the degree by yourself. But when you get into a relationship, everything gets brought up and reflected back at you because you need that person to do that to help grow and move forward. And it's about having that person that's going to stand by you whilst you're working through that. I just wanted this episode to be very highlighting to toxic situations and hard situations. Those that don't understand maybe have a bit of a better understanding to situations like this instead of judging and going, well, you should have known, because we are already going to hold that shame and guilt already. I want you guys to try and release that, whether you go to a psychologist after this time has passed, or maybe some of you are getting help right now because you've been through something like that. And it's about working on the techniques that they tell you, however that is, and being able to choose you and choose that you deserve to be happy. And if you have children, that they deserve to be happy because you don't want them to be modeled a shitty relationship. So I'll leave it there. I appreciate you guys all for listening, and I am celebrating the little win that it's in multiple countries now, my little podcast. So hey to all the people that are far, far away internationally. I appreciate you so much. And I'll see you guys back on another episode.